Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Travellers, Season 1, Episode 9. It's called Bishop. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. It's funny, because our last review of this, in the last episode, we spoke about David and Marcy, and how he kept saying it was platonic, and we said, you know what, once you start saying it a lot, it starts to sound kind of like a lie, like you aren't
Hmm.
platonic. And one of the first things he said in this episode was exactly what we said. He's like, I keep saying platonic, and I have to be honest with myself. I thought that was amusing. I feel
Yeah,
that's the second or third time you've said something like that, and then the next episode has addressed it
it is, and I
exactly.
feel like that's fairly decent writing because it's setting it
Hmm.
up enough that we're going, yeah, of course, and then they're resolving it.
Yeah, that one especially feels just kind of like coincidental, like because we that was really specific phrasing the way we talked about that.
Yeah, it was.
So the way he used the exact same sort of logic was just kind of
Yeah,
whoa. But yeah, so the plot of this one, and again, this one kind of starts. It feels smaller, but then by the end of the episode, it's spiraling out
massive.
of
Yeah,
control and it's bigger, and it's probably got the biggest visual effect the show's had since they started. Probably the most sci-fi type thing as well. By the time we get to the end, so MacLaren gets this message, this box left for him. I thought it was a hard drive at first, actually, because of the sort of size and the shape of it.
yeah,
But no, apparently it's a box, and it'll open at the right time and place when it needs to open. And another traveller gets in touch with them as well, and we see her like murder her husband as part of her mission at the start of the episode. And he's told, now you have to go on this flight, and your target's this person, which he assumes means to maybe kill them. That's kind of the implication, but
yeah.
obviously it turns out to be not quite that. And first of all, him being kind of scared about going on a plane because he's never been on an aircraft was really amusing.
It was. I was having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, go on a plane. Aye, that's normal.
I did like the statistically the safest way to travel.
Yeah, line from Superman. I do appreciate that
Always
myself.
appreciate that. Yeah,
So he gets on the plane and he's with this guy, and then it becomes clear that the actual mission. Once Phil, because Philip doesn't know what the flight is, he just, yeah, you're going on a plane for your mission, fine, whatever, not really paying attention. And then someone else mentions what the flight number is, and Philip's like, oh crap.
yeah. I think it's Carly because she's looking
Yeah,
for him. She goes to track the plane to see how long it's going to be.
yeah. And he's like, oh crap, I know what that flight is. That flight's notable. Something happens to that flight. Uh,
And as soon as it gets to that moment, everything kind of ramps up instantly. Like
it,
you sit up, it's like, oh, okay, just got
yeah,
real.
it does, and you don't even need to know exactly what. Because I mean, you assume it's going to crash or something like that, but it doesn't really. Obviously, you find out exactly in a minute. But as soon as he's like, "Wait a minute, that flight," like you know exactly that there's something wrong, and
Yeah.
and the tension starts ramping up. It's almost like it almost turns into an episode of 24 for a brief minute where they're cutting between the plane and them, and they're trying to like coordinate and find out where he's going to
Yeah.
land and all the rest of it. So we get some great stuff on the plane, mixed in with McLaren's wife being up there, because Jeff earlier in the episode went to her and tried to tell her about Carly and that he's having an affair. Of course, he's still just thinking that it's some old white dude having an affair with his wife or ex or whatever you want to call her. And she's there to follow him. She knows that he's on this plane. She's trying to spy on him to see if he's with another woman. And oh no, you're not meant to be here. And I think that's important. I think the fact that she's not meant to be there is very important because he even says as such. And the reason why I bring that up is because this device that he has is a sort of a stasis field generator, which will protect him and Bishop, who he's meant to be protecting, when the plane crashes. So everything else will crash. This field will keep them safe for 10, 20 seconds, just long enough to get clear of the debris
Yeah.
and withstand the impact. Fine, cool sci-fi logic. I'm down with it. There's a cool visual as well when it actually rolls out the plane.
Yeah, I like the big glowing blue orb. It was pretty good looking.
Yeah, it's almost like because all the science fiction in this show is almost like it's all said because it's all like they're from the future, but they're in the bodies of
Yeah,
people
it's
from
all
this time.
intangible. Like
Yeah,
you see them reacting to it, like where they hold up their hands to the head as they get taken over. But that's it.
no, this was the first visual. Here's something from the future kind of thing. Obviously,
Yeah.
whoever made it in present day, but you did it with knowing what they know from the future, and it's
Yeah.
this cool bit of tech. The plane going down looked good as well. Them racing out there to see it come down. Yeah, mostly pretty great. I thought the odd little bit of fire looked a bit rough
Yeah.
CG wise.
Yeah, I think it was
but,
the shot of it, all in the field after.
yeah.
But yeah, I can make it.
For the most part, though, it was a pretty good. It definitely felt like they'd saved some of their money for this moment.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It was a big moment. It needed it.
Yeah, and I feel like since episode 6, it has been downplayed enough that they've been able to save a few pennies, so that they
Yeah,
get to this.
they have had a few quieter episodes with a bit more simplistic plots.
Yeah, so it makes sense that they've done that. So yeah, so up in the air, and MacLaren's like, can we make the force field bigger so that we can fit 3 people? I need to save, his wife, and he's trying to do it. And that's interesting in and of itself because, he cares for her, but it's not really his wife, kind of thing. Carly's worried about him. Carly's worried about him surviving, and it's a very complex emotional sort of circle going on here, with him trying to save her and it not really being his wife. But so he gets this idea when Philip says, or I think maybe Trevor says, that the only part of the plane that was intact in the photos was the tail section. The very last part of the plane, the small tail section, was the only part that wasn't just eviscerated in the crash. And you almost think that he's going to put his wife there, put Kat there,
tell her to go in it
so that she might survive. But instead, no, he puts her in the force field and says, no, you two press this button when this lights up, you two will be safe. And then he goes to the tail section and maybe survives. And it looks like he probably does. We see the EMTs take him at the end. At the very least, he's one piece at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But he's also a major character, which is why I don't think he's in any danger.
Well, see, you say that, but it's close enough to the end of the season that maybe they could if they wanted to.
Maybe. Of course.
But, it's not the same right sort of show to do it, I don't think.
Yeah. Of course, the more interesting thing here is that now Kat is heard and seen a lot. She's heard people talk about travellers now. She even sees Bishop, the congressman that he was there to save. He, has a traveller go inside him after they land. He talks about some sort of pipeline that him and his colleagues were trying to get passed through. And that feels like it's probably going to be important to just detail-wise to whatever's going on for they're trying to stop or prevent or whatever for the future. But she sees this traveller go into him, and she hears all these other people talk back to him, oh, we're traveller this, we're traveller that. And her husband had this device, and it's all very... And it's what I think is because when they're going through the plane and the flight attendant, gets the message and says, traveller, whatever, you are off mission.
Off mission, yeah.
And it did occur to me for a split second, why not just go into Cat? And it'd stop him. But then I was thinking, but he did say she's not meant to be there. That would be kind of messing things up, because they don't know what's going to happen as a result of killing her, when she should still, in history's book, she was never on that plane.
Yeah, so maybe she goes on to do something important.
Maybe, or maybe it's not even that it's important. It's just the fear of the ramifications of taking someone out who was never meant to be out, even though she was going to die anyway because she was on the plane. It's kind of this weird.
Yeah, and they clearly do it on occasion. I mean, even at the start of this episode.
Yeah, because it's not like they die if an adult dies if a traveller goes in them. It's just that they can't go back. Whereas a kid we've seen can get a message and then be brought back out.
Yeah,
and the kid's okay. Whereas plane full of people, they can send someone into the flight attendant because she's a goner in a minute anyway. One little touch of filmmaking I really appreciated is when MacLaren's on the comms and he's talking to the team about trying to save, and I need this to work for 3 people. I need it to work for 3 people. I need to save my wife. Just after he says that, he looks over and he sees a young boy on the plane in one of the seats, sort of looking at him. And it's this moment of, I'm being really selfish here, this kid's going to die.
Yeah, because they even say, that this is the reason they didn't tell you what was in it, because they knew you'd try and save everyone. Yeah. And he's like, nope, just one extra.
Yeah, but I really appreciate that, because it gave you all of the emotion and what's going through his head in a simple shot without getting into it, without talking about it.
I feel like there was actually a lot of that this episode, where there was a lot of, I think we mentioned it before, close-ups on the eyes and the lips in certain moments. We got it a lot between Marcy and David.
Yeah. When they were kind of having their weird breakup, and then.
But we got it when he was on the plane as well. It was when he was kind of starting to get worried about what was going on, and you kind of just get the close-up on the top half of his head, and he just looks really worried in his eyes.
No, I think the direction, particularly in this last act of this episode with all the plane stuff, was exceptionally well done.
Yeah,
It was
definitely.
exciting, it was tense, and even though you know he's probably going to be okay, because again, he's one of our main characters. Because at first, when it first comes up, something's wrong with the plane, before you realise what he's actually there to do, you're thinking, oh, how's he going to get out of this? But then it's like, oh no, the whole point is that he was going to get out of this. You know, that was always the plan, is that he would get out of this with Bishop, who they want to keep alive, so they can use his history, his position in Congress to do whatever it is they're going to do.
So it really feels to me like whoever's took over Bishop is someone important from the future, because it's the way that he didn't answer with his traveller number. You know, normally when they always introduce themselves, like, I'm traveller, whatever, and they always say it back like what they are.
Yeah,
And he just didn't. He just kind of overlooked them. It makes me feel like it's someone important.
maybe it makes sense to introduce someone like that at this point in the season. But that was the main big thing. That was the big part. Obviously, there was a lot of subplots going on. Carly trying to get a job and not being able to because Jeff has put on her record that she's assaulted a police officer, and that's an issue. Marcy and David, as we briefly mentioned, they kind of have this weird breakup kind of thing where he wants her to get out of the house because it's kind of weird, and he's still feeling the effects of the events of the last episode. And it's when she comes back, she admits that she's dying from these seizures. She's buying herself some more time, but it's kind of inevitable. She's eventually going to die. The body's going to shut down on her. And they have a romantic moment and they kiss. And I think, again, interesting, he's starting to see a little bit more as well, because she answers the comms while he's right there. She hears him talking to someone. I mean, obviously MacLaren does that in front of Bishop, but he knows that Bishop's going to be taken over, probably. Or
Well, you have to think, why am I saving him otherwise?
yeah. So, I think that makes a lot of sense. But again, Marcy and David, some of their scenes are very, very touching and emotional. Like the chemistry between them. You know, when David's like talking, and he's like, you know, I feel like I'm dying here talking to you like this, and she says the same thing. And he asks, "What do you mean you feel the same way?" It's like, "No, I do feel the same way, but that's not what I'm saying." Like just the chemistry throughout, and the way they speak to each other, and the small little the moments. It feels very human. It feels very emotional, and
It's kind of what's grounding the show from the sci-fi elements, isn't it?
yeah, their relationship specifically. I think there's some other things that do creep in. I think Kat going through this is going to make her infinitely more interesting.
Yeah, because it means that we should hopefully avoid the rest of all this love triangle bollocks.
Well, I think it'll still be there, but it'll be here in a much more different way, because now it's not, oh, you're my husband and I think you're cheating on me. Now it's, you're not my husband.
Yeah, but she'll still feel jealous.
She'll still feel jealous, but it'll be a different spin on it.
I don't mind this, because this feels like what it should be and more natural, whereas what we were afraid of was just typical network.
Not to keep guessing the next episode and getting it absolutely right, but I would expect a large part of the next episode would be the team going, oh crap, what do we do about Kat?
Yeah, while presumably MacLaren's with the ambulance.
Yeah, they maybe have to try and get him back, but at the same time an ongoing thread is, what do we do about Kat? What do we tell her? You know, do we lock her away in our base and try and explain to her?
Yeah, because I feel like they'll want to, I don't know, they'll want to go, no, this is his responsibility. We can wait till he's all right and he can deal with it.
Yeah, I can see that. But obviously that's a question that's going to have to come up.
I liked at the end that when he came back into Bishop's body, he said, oh, you're not the EMT team I was expecting. So he's a bit off trajectory maybe because it was Kat in there and not MacLaren. That, the trajectory was a bit different.
The body weight would have been different, so it would have shot it out.
Because obviously they're over by MacLaren, because Trevor, they say, oh, they're not meant to be here yet. How are they here so quick? Obviously, they're presumably travellers as well and been sent for Bishop.
So we have this weird thing where the other travellers think that MacLaren's actually the important person from the future.
Could be, yeah.
I don't know why he wouldn't just correct him immediately, unless he is unconscious for a while in the next episode.
I'd expect him to be, considering he was just in a plane crash.
Or have to go with the old trope of amnesia, because he's had a knock in the head.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I'm not sure I think amnesia, because we kind of already played with that at the start of this show, where they took over the bodies and they didn't know the intimate details.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
We kind of already played the amnesia angle. I don't feel like we need to see it again.
But that's episode 9 of Travellers. We'll be back with at least a couple tomorrow as well, reviews. So thank you very much. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. And yeah, we'll see you next time.